Welcome to the Thea Lee podcast. It is January 20th, 2026, and we are continuing on day 20 of reading through the Bible. Yesterday we left off with the story of Job, and his friend Eliphaz is trying to comfort him and encourage him. However, today, as he continues with his speech, it turns from just encouraging him to starting to think that he thinks that Job has sinned in some way. So he starts to say things like, if I were you, I would go to God and present my case to him. And you should consider it joy of those corrected by God. Do not despise the discipline of the Almighty when you sin. For though he wounds, he also bandages. He strikes, but his hands also heal. So he's starting to tell Job that pretty much you must have done something wrong for all of these things to happen to you. Then Job comes back and speaks to him and tells him that if they would measure all of his misery and troubles, that they would outweigh the sands of the sea. And that is why he was speaking impulsively when he was complaining. And he says the Almighty has struck him down with his arrows, and its poison infects his spirit, and God's terrors are lined up against him. He talks about not being able to eat and not being able to sleep. He says that he wishes that God would just crush him. He wishes he would reach out his hand and kill him. At least, he says, he can take comfort in the fact that despite the pain, he has not denied the words of the Holy One. But then later it says, one should be kind to a fainting friend, but you accuse me without any fear of the Almighty. He says, you have given me no help. You have seen my calamity, and you are afraid. But why have I ever asked anything of you? And then he says, teach me, and I will keep quiet. Show me what I have done wrong. Honest words can be painful, but what do your criticisms amount to? Stop assuming my guilt, for I have done no wrong. Do you think that I am lying? Don't I know the difference between right and wrong? And then he goes on to talk about his struggle and his pain. He says his body is covered with maggots and scabs, and his skin breaks open, oozing with pus. So it is just horrible suffering that he is going through. And then he goes on and he starts crying out to God. He asks God to ease his misery, and he's wondering what has happened. And he says to God, if I have sinned, what have I done to you? O watcher of all humanity, why make me your target? Am I a burden to you? Why not just forgive my sin and take away my guilt? For soon I will lie down in the dust and die. When you look for me, I will be gone. So today is just this conversation between Job and his friend, and then Job speaking to the Lord in this anguish. And I can't really blame his friend for saying you must have done something wrong, because they have no idea why this has all happened to Job. There's no way for them to know that it was just a conversation between God and Satan, saying that he could test Job to see if Job's faith would stand firm. But Job knows that he has done no wrong. And he doesn't understand why this is happening, but he's asking the Lord for help. So really interesting reading today, but it seems so far like Job is going to stand firm in his faith. Thank you for listening. We'll talk again tomorrow.